Well, here we are, New Year's Eve. A
Yes,
wonderful night. My good friend Tyree Washington, Joe Madden joining us. Tyree, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here on New Year's Eve just to spit some knowledge to everybody. It's
Guys,
exciting.
just so you know, Tyree and I had talked a few days ago. Tyree was going to do a live show, and I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, do you want to do something on StreamYard so we can get people interacting and getting questions and comments because he wants to bring it out to the masses per se and bring out his motivational and inspirational words. So that's what we're here today to do. The year end, talk about stories, talk about 220. We've talked about it, T. You know how that goes. But we're
We're
going to go
always
to
talking
Joe.
about it. That's what we do.
That's it. You have to. We have to sit there and talk about it. Joe, you're giving us a perspective from the Canadian side. We're kind of going to bring it all in. And I also have a special friend that's coming on that knows Tyree's probably one of his favorites. He lived in this area. He was homeless at one time too, and he was working as a now he's working as a lawyer, going through he has a big attorney. So he
Nice.
started a program to help the homeless. So I wanted to bring him on. We've got about so far we got about 20 viewers watching. So guys, send us your comments, your questions. Tyree's here to answer them. We're just hosting it. Joe is there to make sure the Canadian side. I'm just sitting there giving my 2 cents. So Tyree, start us off. You know what? I know you. We've talked. Joe and I and Dante's had you on our show. For the people that are listening out there, give us a little bit of background insight, what you've come through and what you've gone through and where you're at today.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure, Tony and Joe, to be on the show. I mean, for me, I want to say this before I get rolling is that I talked to Tony a couple days ago, and I was telling him about what I wanted to do, and obviously he seen my post about going on Facebook, doing a Facebook Live, and give my assessment about 2020, and it was more or less for me. It's like my calling from God. God was like, listen, I don't care how busy you are today, care if you're cooking that gumbo, pies, or whatever, you need to put aside some time to be able to speak to everybody and give them some encouragement. So that's what I'm doing today. But just to give you a little background about myself, I mean, I'm a speaker. I'm an author. I just came out with my book. My book, Against All Odds, was released 4 months ago, and it's a great read for anybody and everybody that's going through adversity in their life. And also in the back of my book, it's like everybody has a story. So I give everybody my top 10 takeaways for success, because you need a solution, because we're all going through issues. You need a solution how to resolve whatever situation you're going through. I'm also a former NFL player, 3-time Hall of Fame inductee. I'm a 4-time 400-meter world champion in track and field. And I've been a 3-time fastest man in the world with asthma, right? With asthma. So a lot of people didn't believe I have asthma, but I do have asthma. So, but anyhow, today I was thinking about a topic for my message, and the topic is this. I call it the year of Job. And a lot of you guys may not. You guys may read your Bible. You may not read your Bible. There's no judgment. I mean, I'm not here for that. But one thing that I have assessed throughout this year, 2020, that it has been crazy. It has been off the chain, and there's been so much chaos. There's been so much division. There's been financial. People have gone through financial loss. There have been a lot of people have passed away due to COVID. And when I think about an individual in the Bible that can relate to all of us, myself included, is I think about Job. So I'm gonna give you a quick little cliff notes about Job. And so, Satan was roaming the earth. All right. Satan was roaming the earth looking for somebody that he wanted to tempt, just to screw up, just to devour. And so he meets up with God. And he asked God, he says, is there any one of your servants I can tempt? And God's like, well, I have a servant Job. He's very faithful. He's very faithful. He's obedient, and he's always by my side. And so Satan asked God, could he tempt him? And God gives him okay. He gives him the green light. So Satan just wipes out all of Job's kids. He takes all of his riches away. He affects his health. He goes after like his friends. His friends turned on him. It's like, hey, you caused this. You're a hypocrite. His own wife even said, why don't you just curse God and die? So Job's getting hit in many different directions. I mean, left and right, front and back, all over the place. But yet he never ever cursed God. He still remained faithful. He remained optimistic, and he kept pushing forward and doing God's work. And at the end, long story short, God blessed him more than he can ever imagine. Now, if you look at our lives right now, just like I talked about today, I was talking about right now. we have gone through so much with just deaths from COVID, financial loss. I mean, you have people out there that are going to food banks that have never gone to food banks before, that have worked full-time jobs, making a great living, but they're suffering right now. And they just need to pick me up. They need something to elevate them. You have people who are depressed. They have anxiety. The suicide rate is high. And we have to, like, for me, when I'm going through a bad time, I look at Job, because Job has all the components that we have going through right now, and he has prevailed, and we are going to prevail. That's one thing about the human race, is that we're very resilient. We bounce back. We've gone through so many different things in our life, and I'm just going to name a couple of things just in past events that happened. All right, I want you guys to hear me out on this. The Vietnam War, over 3,000 soldiers passed away. We bounced back. 9/11, over 2,000 citizens died. All right, and then we bounced back. Spanish flu killed over 50 to 100 million people worldwide. And if it hit in this day and age, it would be over probably 200 million, because it's more populated. But we bounced back from that. There's been many massacres out there throughout the country over the years. We have bounced back. We have bounced back from this because, like I said, we're very resilient. But the thing is that how do we become resilient? What do we do? All right, because like I said, everybody has that story. Everybody wants to tell a story. Everybody has issues, but it's like, okay, how could you solve my issues? So I'm gonna give you guys 3 takeaways. All right, maybe 4. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So the first takeaway that I'm going to talk about is that 90-10 rule. All right, for those of you that don't know about that 90-10 rule, is that if 90% of your thinking is negative and only 10% is positive, then you're going to attract negativity back into your life. So you want to be able to flip the way you're thinking right now, because I know things are bad. I know you feel like hope is not there. I know you feel like things are just like everybody's turning on me. You feel like maybe I just want to take my life. You feel suicidal. You may feel homicidal, but you have to change your mindset. That's what's important. It's extremely important, because you change your mindset. Everything else, everything may be foggy. It becomes clear. All right. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I want you guys to reach out to those lifelines. Okay. Now, there's a show called How to Be a Millionaire. All right. Now, when that show, How to Be a Millionaire, it's like you're trying to answer the right question. Now, sometimes you have these contestants, they get stuck, and they're like, they have 2 choices, B and C, and they give them the option of, you can phone a friend. All right. So when you're going through a difficult time in your life and you feel like you can't go on, I want you to phone a friend, reach out to those lifelines. And those people may be somebody that may be wiser than you. They're more mature than you. They have more knowledge than you. All right. And they're going to see things from a different perspective. All right. It's like in the Bible. It talks about in Proverbs 3:5, it says, lean not to your own understanding. And a lot of times, and I'm included, all right, if I'm, everything I'm saying to you, I'm speaking to myself, is that we want to do something. And we think with all our heart that is right, but then we seek out our advisors, right, our mentors, and they're looking at it from a different perspective, a different side, and they're like, no, that's not right. And they're going to send you in another direction because they want to set you up for success. All right, that's what you want. You don't want to have yes people in your life, because to me, yes people are going to tell you everything that you want to hear. They're going to agree with everything that you want in your life. And I know, honestly, I tell you quite frankly, is that when I'm talking to my pops or my advisor, is that they're not yes people. They're not yes people. They're giving me constructive criticism and love, because they want me to get better. And if anybody that you're with right now, if they're not giving that constructive criticism, they're telling you, trying to give you a different perspective, then they're not trying to elevate you in anything that you're going to do in your life. All right. And the third thing,
Go ahead, Tyree. I was going to ask you a question afterwards, but go ahead.
yeah. So my third takeaway that I want to give you guys is that it's about control what you can't control. A lot of us, we can't control what's going on with COVID. We can't control what's going on overseas. We can't control how many people are going to die or how many people are going to get sick or get affected. But we can control what we do. We can control the way we think. We can control who we hang around with. We can control what we watch on television. And then, like I said, it all goes back to that mindset. The first takeaway I gave you guys is that if it's not elevating you in your life, then you want to get rid of it. You want to cut it out like it's a bad piece of apple, like there's like some mold on an apple. You want to get rid of it. But these are some of the keys that are going to help you to be successful. Life is not about being perfect. All right. It's about just getting better. All right. Because you're going to fail. I failed. I'm going to continue to fail, but it's about just getting back up and keep pushing forward. And whatever your weakness is, whatever you're going through in your life that you may be struggling with, you want to be able to exploit that to the fullest, and you want to reach out to those lifelines, phone a friend, whatnot, and be able to help somebody turn it into a strength so you can be able to get better. That's what you want to have, and that's what's going to set you apart from everybody else. That's going to help you to speak life into whatever you're doing, and not speak death.
Terry, let me ask you this. The conversation we've had, obviously personal and about family and stuff like that. There's a lot of people out there that always sit there and say, "I know what you're going through," or you have it made easy. You're a gold Olympian gold winner. You're the fastest man in the world. You played football, but they don't really know what you went through until you obviously talked and you let your story out in your book. What do you say to the people that sit there and say, you know what, I understand what you're going through? Because I always say that, no one really knows because no one can really walk in that person's shoes.
Well, you can't. I mean, the problem is the mistake that people make, and I've made that mistake as well at times, is that we assume things about other people. We assume things about other people because of what they have. And then we assume that you look at Joe. Joe's a beautiful woman. No, she's a beautiful woman. Everything is right in her life. Tony is a great entrepreneur. Everything's going right in his life. You see somebody with a big house, a nice car, or whatever, or they're famous and whatnot, and everything is great. Everything is great. But you don't know that person's in a dark place in their life, and they're on the verge of committing suicide. They're on the verge of homicide. They're on the verge of just tapping out, like life has them in an arm bar, and they're just ready to give up. We have to stop making assumptions about people, and instead we have to reach out to those individuals and ask them, like, how are they doing? And I mean, in this day and age, there's no excuse to reach out to someone. I mean, you can text them, you can email them, you can FaceTime them, you can Zoom them. I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, we're blessed to have all these different technology. So, like I said, we have to combat it with, I'm not going to assume anything about Tony or Joe or Tyree or whoever. Instead, I'm going to reach out to him and I'm going to ask him, how are you doing? Is everything all right? And I mean, a lot of times, I know me, I've been going through some stuff many years ago, and I was like, I'm good. Yeah, people say that. But in reality, I'm not good. Like, I'm hurting inside. But then it goes back to like how society perceives a man or a woman of authority, or she's famous, is that you can't have any weakness. And if you do voice your weakness, everybody wants to hammer you on social media. Like, oh my gosh, well, you've accomplished all this stuff. You're a supermodel. How could you have any problems? It goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that nobody is perfect. We're all flawed. Everybody's flawed. I don't care if you're a supermodel. I don't care if you're the fastest human being on the planet. If you're an amazing actor, actress. We all have issues, and our goal is not to try to shoot for perfection. Is to get better at everything that we do in life. That's what we have to strive for every single day of our lives.
Absolutely. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take it all in, Tyree.
This is what tonight's show.
mentee.
This is what tonight's show is about, man. New Year's Eve. I'm going to bring in a moment here. I'm going to bring in Blake, and we're going to sit there and have him ask Ty a couple questions. But,
absolutely.
Ty, one of the things that you said is that no one knows what you go through, and no one knows. They automatically assume.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the assumption is that, hey, and even when we've been Blaking, you're a lawyer, oh, you've got it made, or you're an ex runner, you've got it made. It's not about the monetary side of it. It's about the emotional side of it.
Yes.
The emotional side and the psyche side of it right now. People are going through a very, very tough time. No fault of their own, because a lot of it was brought on with the pandemic.
Right.
But it kind of snowballed to a point now where they feel that there's no hope at the other side of the tunnel, or no light at the other side of the tunnel. What do you say to the people that are in that moment right now? And I mean, I tell them, don't give up. I want your words.
Well, this is what I tell them, is that, like I said, I was talking about earlier, we have to look at past events that happened, right? When I was talking about the Vietnam War, I talked about 9/11, talk about the massacre, talk about the Spanish flu. We have to look back at people that have gone through tragic events in their life, that have overcome those events, and that have persevered, that have made it. So it's like, they're not any different than us. They're still human beings. I mean, and so we look at their lives, and we say, we have to say to ourselves, if they made it, I can make it. If you imagine if we had nobody to go back and reference or to look at that, look at of hope, because all those people that have gone through tragic events that have made there, I mean, that's hope for us. So I would just encourage everybody is like I said, go on your computer and Google inspirational people. Google look at the Vietnam War, look at the Spanish flu. All the people passed away. You can go to Barnes and Noble. There's audiobooks of inspirational people. Read those books. I want you to digest it in your soul, because what's going to happen is when you do that, and when you see that people that have overcome tremendous odds, myself have overcome tremendous odds, you are going to be like, man, I could conquer the world. Listen, we don't want to be, because this is how we get beat up. We don't want to be in victim mode. We want to be in victory mode. You understand what I'm saying? I want you guys out there to really listen to that. Do not be in victim mode. Be in victory mode. Okay. And how do you be in victory mode? Is that you got to get you have to change your mindset from being, from that negativity, from that doubt, to being optimistic, to being positive. Like, I'm gonna keep pushing forward in life. You know what? I may not be where I am right now, but I'm gonna be there. And I may just have to take these little baby steps, but I'm still gonna get there. Because that's how I look at my life. I've been knocked down many times. There's been times, and if you read my book, is that I wanted to tap out, but I didn't tap out. And I kept on fighting. I reached out to those lifelines, a phone a friend, whatever you want to call it, and they were able to help pick me back up. Right. And that's what it's about. That's why I came on this call on New Year's Eve, is because I want to lift up everybody. It's, to me, that is what's fulfilling. I don't care what I've done in my life. I've done a lot of great stuff in my life and won titles and been the fastest man in the world, playing NFL. But at the end of the day, what the good Lord wants me to do, he wants me to pass that baton, and he wants me to elevate souls. That's what he wants. Like I was telling Tony yesterday, I want to be that meteor that hits the ocean, creates all these tsunamis all over the place of positivity everywhere. And I want you guys to do the same thing, because we can do it. We can make it. 2020 is about to come to an end. And what I'm doing is giving you that encouragement so you can catapult in 2021, and you could be that lion. All right, you could be that lion, and you're gonna conquer anything and everything.
Absolutely. Tyree, did you always have this positive attitude? Is this something that's come to you of late?
Ever since I was a little boy, I've been very optimistic. I come from humble beginnings, and I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot of people pass away, and I've always been that little boy and it's not a good thing. I held my tears in, and I was all about solution. How could I fix this issue? So even people that were older than me, they would come to me and be like, hey, Ty, what could I do to fix this situation? But that's my calling from God. That's what God wants me to do. And like I said, I don't really knock people if like you don't believe in God, or you meditate or whatever you do. But that's my rock right there. That's what keeps me going, because a lot of times I've done so many podcasts and people are asking me like, Ty, are you always up, dude? And I'm like, no, I'm not. There's times that I'm feeling like, I'm like, man, I'm struggling. And my wife's like, she's like, man, at times you can be stubborn. And I'm like, man, I got to call my pops. I got to call my mentors, my advisors. And they're like, hey, Ty, what's going on? And I'm letting them know what's going on. But they provide me with that advice, and they give me that encouragement. And it rejuvenates my soul, and it rejuvenates my feelings. And I keep on pushing. So you think about it, even like a machine in a factory, it needs to shut down for a while. It needs to reboot. Sometimes we gotta scale back. We have to things. We have to reboot the system, and we have to come back stronger than ever. And that's what we have to do right now. Like right now, as of today, tonight, or wherever you're around the world, is just rebooting the system so we can come back strong mentally and physically for 2021.
I want to bring in a friend that I met the other day, and I talked to via messenger. His name is Blake Woodhall. He came up with a program, and I'm going to bring him here in about 10 seconds. Blake came up with a program that his son had started. We talked a little bit on Facebook. 11 meals for the homeless, and I'm going to bring him and I'm going to have him explain what he's done and how far he's gone by one small idea of helping someone. And by the way, he's a big fan of yours, so let's bring in Blake. Blake, hold on 1 second.
All right.
Blake, there you are, buddy. How are you, my friend?
Good. How you guys doing?
What's going on, Blake?
What's happening? Hi. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Blake. Blake, tell us a little bit about what you're doing, and Tyree. Any questions for Tyree, and what we can do to help you out too?
Yeah, well, first, Tyree, I want to let you know I'm from the IE, man. So I know you're from La Sierra. I went to
Namaste, my brother.
I went to Colton High School, and I have a bunch of friends who ended up at San Bernardino Valley College.
Okay.
So
he knows.
I know your background. I know where you came from, my friend. I know where you came from. So
love it.
So all us IE people, we appreciate you coming on, man. It's nice to meet you, because you're definitely like you're a hometown hero up in the Inland Empire. So
I appreciate it.
It's pretty cool being able to talk to you. So yeah, again, Tony, I really appreciate you having me on. I'll try to summarize this best I can. But when COVID first hit, I sat my kids down. I have 3 kids, 2 still at home, and I sat my kids down and I said, all right, I don't know really what's going to happen here or what we're going to do, but one thing we're going to do is we're not going to live in fear, and we're going to use this. There's going to be some sort of opportunity, and we're going to seize upon it. So one day we were driving downtown. Cooper, my 14-year-old son, and I would take these little day trips just to get out of the house. And one day we ended up bringing 11 meals with us that we just, packaged up from stuff I had in our kitchen. And we drove them downtown and we handed them out to the homeless. And feeding the homeless for me has been something that's been close to my heart for a long time. My dad was a pastor, did a lot of things in that regard as a kid. And it's just always sort of been something that I've been doing. And on the way home, my son said, Dad, I really want to keep doing this. I think we should just keep doing this. Maybe some of our friends would help. So I sent out a Facebook post asking my friends for some help. And the next thing you know, I started having people donating money. And I'll give you the Cliff Notes. Fast forward, we went for about 9 weeks, and we ended up handing out 1,511 meals.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Then our
Love
funds
it.
ran out. So then our funds ran out, and Cooper said, well, Dad, I want to do it for the holidays. Let's revive it for the holidays. I want to do 1,000 meals from Thanksgiving to the end of the new year. So here we are. We revived it, and with Cooper's inspiration, it was really his doing. And we are now at 850. We'll be handing out 200 more this weekend. We're going to easily reach the 1,000 mark, which will put us over 2,600 total. And just to piggyback a little bit on Tyree's message about Job, I'm certainly familiar with that story. And there's a lot of Jobs out there that we're seeing.
Yes.
There's a lot of people who have had, and now they're in the have-not category. But we're seeing, obviously the drug addicts and addicts and the mentally ill, and it's a nightmare down there. And there's a greater need now that COVID's hit, because a lot of programs have gone away during this time, where they're actually needed even more. And so with help from people like you, this is really blown up. And I've been receiving just a huge outpouring of messages on Facebook. And if you don't mind, I'd like to give out my email address and my phone number for anybody who wants to get involved with this, because we're actually now in January going to establish a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're gonna roll with this, and we're in with the Jobs, with the prodigal sons and daughters.
That's right.
And it's gnarly, it's ugly, it's dirty, but we go down there and we literally drive around in my car, roll down the window when we see anybody who's clearly homeless. We ask them if they're hungry, and we hand them a meal. A meal has a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It has an orange, a bottled water, a bag of chips, a chewy granola bar, and a Rice Krispie treat. And we're able to do that for $1.50 per meal.
Wow. Amazing.
And we're going into the hot spots in San Diego, east of Petco and over by the bus stop and the library and the post office. I mean, we're going into it, and there's been some amazing stories. When you give, you get more back than what you ever give. I don't know if you've ever done that. The lessons we're learning and the people that we're meeting. There's some incredible people out there, but they're the dismissed, the forgotten, the shunned, the rejected, and you know, again, to piggyback on Tyree's message, I feel like I'm a man of faith, and I believe that that's my calling, is to go out and help the forgotten. And so that's what I'm doing. And so if anybody wants to get involved in this, you can find me on Facebook. It's just under my name, so Blake Woodhull. And then shoot me an email if you want. It's blakewoodhull@gmail.com, or shoot me a text or call me. My phone number is 858-342-3245. And
I'll post all that stuff on our Facebook page and the Sable Media's page and all that. I wanted to go to Tyree on this question here, because obviously with the homeless, one of the main things right now, a lot of people, Tyree, are going through a very tough time because of the pandemic. And like we talked about, your darkest moment that you mentioned to me, you know, you lost your home. And I think if I remember correctly, you're saying your realtor said, don't worry about it. You can get another one. You can get it back. So what's your words to people that are homeless right now? They're living in their homes, in their cars, or not even in their cars. What's the motivation that you can give them that may help them understand that there is hope?
Well, when I was going through my darkest points of my life, and like Dan about my realtor, and he's the one that shared that with me. He gave me that advice many years ago. Hey, if you got it once, you can get it again. And that's what something I would tell everybody is that if you're above ground, every day above ground is a good day. And I know it may seem like things could always be worse, but you have an opportunity to fight the good fight. And I had the opportunity to fight that good fight. I can still keep pressing on. These people out here that are homeless and they're struggling is keep fighting the good fight, because it's just like with Blake. You never know who's going to come in your life that can change your life. Sometimes it's like this, Tony and Joe and Blake. Blake, you know, I mean, obviously coming from a family where his father was a pastor, is that so many people out there, they pray. They pray about what they want in life, right? It's like they're at God, send me a meal, send me a clothes, send me a wife, send me a date or a job, or whatever it may be. But blessings come in many different forms. And so you never going to come in your life that's going to change your life. And so that's why it's very, very important that you keep open-minded and that you remain faithful. But with behind any faith is obviously just keep on, like I said, keep on pressing forward. Don't ever give up. Because once you give up and you tap out and you decide that I can't go no more, it's like I was telling Tony yesterday, it's not Fortnite. There's no do-overs and there's no returns. You see what I'm saying?
No do-overs. You're right.
That's it. I mean, you literally are going to be. It's like you wither away, you pass on. And my pops always he gave me this advice. We're talking about just enjoying today, enjoying the moment, because life is like a blink of an eye. It's over with. It's like mist. It's here today. You're here today. You're gone tomorrow. And one thing about death, he says, death is undefeated. And it's never satisfied. So we have to do all that we can to have the right, like I said, go back to the mindset and keep praying, stay optimistic, keep faithful, and remain hopeful that things are going to get better, because eventually it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But once you just tap out and you just give up, that's when it's over with.
You know, I'll bring this question to you, Tony, and then we'll bring it to Blake and then to Joe afterwards, because obviously we all have kids. The biggest thing that I see happening with children now, they're getting to the point where you see a lot more are getting emotionally withdrawn. They're psychologically, you see kids committing suicide at young ages. You see like that. It's just horrifying. I mean, I shake my head when I read this. Like a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old shouldn't even be thinking about stuff like that. They should be innocent. What can we do or say to help our kids? Tyree, let's go to you first, and then we'll go to Blake, and then bring it to Joe, and then kind of get our perspective on that.
I think that we need to definitely instill in them about just being optimistic that things are going to get better. And I said, I'll always go back to past events about what happened. A lot of times our kids are uneducated about history and about all the tragic stuff that happened. And they're like, and they don't think that people survived. Like, you know, there's people that actually survived the Vietnam War, the 9/11, the Spanish flu and mass shootings and so on and so on. But we have to have them look back at that and just let them know that they're very resilient, they're very strong, and they have to just continue. Whoever's in their corner, because just like as adults that we need mentors and advisors, they need mentors and advisors too. And then whoever they can connect with, they can talk with, if it's through Zoom, if it's through a phone call, or if it's not in a group setting, they can meet up with their friend, whatnot, and have their mask and whatever it may be. They need to do that, because as human beings, So I think it's important that we just make sure we set them up for success, and just have them around the right individuals, and make sure they're thinking the right way.
Blake, you mentioned your son is 13 years old?
He's 14 now. Yep.
14. What gave, I mean, I got to give you credit, man, because I've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And I think, we talked about this too. I lost my wife a year ago, and very difficult. I try to keep the faith for my kids, understand that, there's a good Lord, and good things happen to good people. And you try to help people that, not everybody has an iPhone. Not everybody has a computer. Not everybody drives a nice car. So you got to make sure that they understand where their upbringing comes from. But it sounds to me, Blake, that you taught your children the power of love and compassion and empathy. That was one thing that my mom distilled in me from day one, is that a child is innocent, and a child knows no harm. They don't see color. They just want to have fun and laugh. And when they see someone suffering, they want to help them. How did you instill that in your kids, and what carrying this on for them for 2021?
Yeah. So, I wholeheartedly agree with what Tyree had to say. And I'll just sort of add that in terms of, number one is, I believe that as parents, we need to be good examples of how we want our kids to be. So if we don't want our kids to, be complainers and whiners and, depressed and down, and then we need to be the example of that. So let's us be positive. Let's us be optimistic. And then, through every trial and tribulation and tragedy, there are opportunities to serve. And so for me, and my sort of guidance for my children is, like I said, when this all began, I said, we're not going to live in fear. We're not going to cower in the corner, and we're going to look for some opportunities to help others. And if you're the example of that, then your children will follow. And I have great kids. They're awesome human beings, and we've been able to manage this. It hasn't been easy. There's been definitely some days where, people are frustrated with everything, but I can say that with just this little program, with respect, and my daughter, I have an 18-year-old daughter who had to stay behind for college. She's going to be going off to New Jersey to play softball here in a couple of weeks. But she participated as well. And I have an older son too, who's 25. He participated a little bit. They got some perspective here. Every time we drive down there, there's a new people we encountered, and a new perspective that even I get, in terms of, hey, we don't have it so bad. And so we're not going to complain when, the people at Starbucks got our order wrong, and we're not going to we make problems that aren't really problems. And we sort of live in a bubble here, particularly in San Diego, where we just sort of don't look at some of the things that are going on. But if you actually dive into those things and show your kids that there's a way to help and to give, they get some perspective in terms of they don't have it so bad. But also just, at the end of the day, it's leading by example. I also coach football, and I think it's a similar sort of concept where if I have a, for lack of a better term, a loser mentality, and I bring that loser mentality on the field when I'm coaching my team, they're going to have a loser mentality, because, kids are looking to us for leadership. And if we come home every day and we complain about COVID, well, what do you think they're going to do? So at the end of the day, that's where I fall in.
Well,
go ahead, Tyree. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say too is, it's like, Blake is 100% right, because it's about gratitude. When you have gratitude, you have a better attitude, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of times you look at things that like, it's like what Blake was saying, is that a lot of people look at things, they start looking at other people and the things they have, and they start looking at their lives. Well, I don't have that. But you have to appreciate what you do have. Like, first of all, like, you appreciate that you opened your eyes this morning. All right. A lot of people didn't do that. That's the big one right there. The fact that your feet touch the floor, carpet, hardwood floors, whatever it may be. is that you have your health. That's huge. I mean, then you have a roof over here, you got food in your refrigerator. When you start looking at those things, I tell my kids all the time. I got my 15-year-old daughter, my 10-year-old, all my kids. I'm like, I tell them, write that gratitude list. And so when you write that gratitude list and you see all the things that you have in your life, and like Blake was talking about, if you go to Starbucks and they got your order wrong, you're not gonna be upset about that. Or if or you're crossing the street, somebody may have brushed your shoulder accidentally, you're not gonna just spaz out. You can be like, whatever, somebody's speeding, they cut you off. You're like, it's no big deal. It's all about having that gratitude that I'm here today. I'm fighting a good fight. And then also too, is that, I mean, I'm gonna go back to like in the Bible, like Matthew 6:25 talks about do not worry. I think a lot of people are worrying. They're worrying about tomorrow. Like what's gonna happen even next year. Go ahead, Tony.
Wait, I want to jump into that. And Joe, I know we're leaving. I want to give you in a second, but I want to get you on the fact about people worrying. Obviously, it's a natural attribute, that motion that people do. They worry. But I noticed, because what I've gone through, is that worrying doesn't solve anything.
No.
All it does is makes you go into that doldrum of thinking about the past and what you're going to do in the future, and then what you have in front of you, it just passed by. So how do you sit there and allow, or especially with the kids, for them not to worry when every day you see stuff on TV, you see stuff on the internet, on the phones. I mean, you can't keep them cut off from the world. So how do we sit there and let them know that, yes, things are going to be okay. Let's not worry. Let's grab the soccer ball. Let's go play soccer. Let's play football, whatever it may be. Let's take a run around the lap. But let's be a family and take it on it together. How do you do that?
I think it goes back to what I said about gratitude. Just getting them to focus on the things that they have and not focus on the things that they don't have. Don't focus on tomorrow. Because you think about with worrying. Worrying is not going to add more years to your life. It's not going to make you healthier. It's not going to make you stronger, richer, make you more famous. It's gonna be an adverse effect. It's gonna cut short your life. You see, it's a silent killer, and that's something that we have to refrain from and do the opposite of that. And we have to just live for the moment, live for today, all right? And if we, God willing, we make it to tomorrow, then we deal with tomorrow. That's what we have to tell our kids. That's what we have to tell ourselves. Let's just be concerned with the issues that's going on today. All right, let's have that gratitude. And let's be together. Let's just have that unconditional love for each other, and be able to lift each other up. And that's the key, because one thing I know, just with and I'm gonna go back to Matthew 6:25, right? Mm-hmm. So you look at that, and God talks about, God created everything, right? He created the birds. He obviously created us, and the birds will fly. They fly all over the place, right? And they got food. They got shelter. I mean, Blake, he's probably heard this a million times from his father.
Yep.
But yet, I mean, we are higher up on the food chain than some, these birds that are flying everywhere. So God's like, hey, I'm gonna take care. He's like, I'm gonna take care of you guys. We are His priority, and we just believe that, and wholeheartedly we have faith is that we're gonna be fine. But I know at times it's like I get caught up in worrying, and I have to backtrack, and I have to tell myself, well, look at everything that you have in your life right now, and is it gonna help you to be smarter, Ty? Is it gonna help you be healthier? It help you to make more money? No, it's not. So I keep on pushing. I leave it alone.
I don't know if you see this on the comments. Rob is actually a coach, a football coach. I think he's from Florida, but he says what Blake and everyone is doing is awesome. We went into the pandemic, and my players were asked to go home and finish school online. It was difficult, so I found myself trying to figure out what I can do. So I decided to reach out to my players every day to let them know I cared. It had nothing to do with the sport, but to let them know that we are in this together. I showed my vulnerable side to let them know that my concerns, and that I was scared, and I was scared for myself too. I didn't know if my players understood that, but he showed his vulnerable side. So that right there makes a big. You don't have to be the fastest man in the world, or the greatest attorney, or Joe, the greatest handicapper, myself, the greatest cat. Being vulnerable is key.
Yes. Well, you think about it, that it's like I put up a post I think it was a month ago. Being authentic and being organic, it never goes out of style. Trends come and go. They're here today, gone tomorrow. But when you're just being authentic, you're being you. It's just like Rob. He was showing these kids, these student athletes, like just his human side. Like, hey, I cried just like you. I get depressed like you at times. I get worried. I get frustrated. We're in this together, and it's like, but even though like we're in this together and we're feeling down in the dumps, is that it's only temporary. It's only a test. That's all it is, a test. But there's also, you can reach out to those other people that's out there in the world, whoever you have contact with, that has more wisdom, has more knowledge, to be able to help pick you up and pick your boys up. That's the beauty about networking and knowing people, because I mean, we each and every one of us have at least one person that we can reach out to get help when we feel down in the dumps. At least one.
I agree, Joe. I mean, obviously, I know you have kids and they're going through sports and football and that. What do you tell your kid? I mean, we talked about this before in prior shows. What do you tell your kids? I mean, Canada's doing it a little bit different than the United States, but what's the mother's view on this?
Open and honest. You know, you can't hide your kids away from the realities of life and what's going on. I have teenagers, so I'm able to sit down and have a blank conversation with them where it's like, this is exactly what's happening. These are the precautions we need to take. But again, like Blake, you said, we can't be scared and we can't live in anxiety every day, because life is way too short and we don't know if we're going to wake up tomorrow. So many people think they're going to wake up every day, and life can be taken in a blink. So open, honest, and in reality with my kids. That's how I live it.
Yeah.
Terry, you your wife is in the military. And thank you, by the way. We talked about this. Give us perspective on that end, on the military aspect of raising a family and taking care of things, because obviously they, hey, hardcore, we got to go, compared to the compassionate side that I know I've seen with the family that you raised. How do you balance that and let your kids know that, you know what, it doesn't have to be bam, bam, bam. We have this heart and we have the compassion and the empathy for each other.
Well, in my house, me and my wife, we have to switch hats at any given moment, because there's something always popping off. I mean, I have 5 kids. My that are in my home. My eldest son, he's 24, he's out, but it's like Home Alone. There's always something going on in my house, and if it's quiet, there's something wrong.
Something's wrong. Something's going on.
Something wrong. Oh,
hey, we talked about that yesterday.
And you stop. You're like, wait a minute.
It's quiet. There's something wrong, even when the dog's not barking.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute. Something's going on.
Yeah. So, but it's like my wife at times she goes out to the box, because I mean she's stationed at Fort Irwin, California. It's a national training center. So all the soldiers from all over the country, they come here to train. I mean, we have even international soldiers. Like, I mean, Ireland was here. I mean, Canada, they come down to train here. But it's like we have to prioritize our schedule. But no matter what we're doing, I mean, I make sure I always tell my kids I love them. I sit down and talk to them, ask them like what's going on in their life, and we talk about the Bible. We talk about the things that they're going through in their life, and just like Joe talked about, being open and honest, so we can be able to deal with whatever situation at hand. But I think we sit at the dinner table and we all eat together and we pray together, and so we're not perfect. I mean, nobody is, but we just try to make sure that, like Blake was talking about earlier, just about setting the right example, about being a leader, being the right leaders. And there's a lot of soldiers that here on base that are not as fortunate as me and my wife in our family, that they don't have anybody. They're stuck in the barracks. And when this COVID hit, it's not like they can go travel they can go travel on the East Coast or wherever around the States to be able to see their family. So I do my due diligence to make sure that I'm interacting with them as much as I can with my wife's unit and anybody I come in contact with. I'm at the gym. I mean, I'm lifting, but my wife's like, I told them I'm gonna lift for an hour. That may turn into like 3 hours or something, because I'm always talking to somebody, because it's like Einstein said this, is that when you can take something complicated and make it simple, that's genius. And a lot of times these soldiers aren't looking for some type of like handout as far as like monetary. They just want you to talk to them. They want you just to listen to what they're going through in their life and just be empathetic towards their situation. And that's what I do. I mean, and so I'm very grateful that I'm here. I don't believe that it's a coincidence that my wife got stationed here at Fort Irwin, California. But yeah, it's tough. We got a lot of soldiers that have committed suicide. and for various reasons. And I just try to do me and my wife try to do our part to try to minimize that. Just to be in their life and to ask them how are they doing, and if they need anything. I mean, we invite them over the house, we give them food, whatever it may be. So that's just our little part that we're trying to give back to the military community.
I want to go back to the kids side of it. You know, my 9-year-old said something to me a couple months ago, and I mentioned this to Joe, and there was an argument going on, and my 9-year-old goes to me and says, "Daddy, the best thing to do is when somebody's arguing, just walk away." And I looked at her, and I said, "Wow, a 9-year-old telling a 49-year-old that it's the best thing to walk away." But what my point being to this is that if we listen to our kids more, Blake, like you with your son, and Joe with your son, and Ty with all your kids, you know, we might actually learn a lot more than what we see on TV and what we see on internet and all the other BS that we see around the world. These kids see at an eye level, and they look at it with an innocent eye rather than with most people look at it. What is it in it for me, or what can I do to get out of it, or you know, what is it that I can do to sit there and benefit myself, or whatever it may be. They don't look at it that way.
They're also not yes people in our lives, so they're not just going to tell us what we want to hear as well.
Yep,
that's very true. I mean, I know, and I mean, this may be funny. It's like I may like pass, you know, win or whatever. My son is like, "Whoa, Daddy, like, what's going on with that, man?" Like, and I'm like, "Hey," but they're honest, and and I keep it real. But that's how they are, just like Joe said, and it's like they're very simple. And it's like they just want you just to love them and care for them. That's all they want, and that's what they want us to do with other people. I worked in probation, right? And I worked with I had kids in there that were murderers. I mean, they were in there for drugs. I mean, in gangs. I mean, various crimes. And when I would talk, I would you know, having them on my caseload, I would talk to them and just to get to know them, and I would ask about their family life. And I remember there was one kid that he was heavily involved in drugs, comes from a very wealthy family. And I asked him, I said, "Does your mom or dad tell you that they love you?" And he said, "No, Mr. Washington." And I was like, wow. And he said, "That's all I want. I just want my parents to tell me that they genuinely love me, they care for me, because that meant a lot to me." And a lot of times we try to get so, like you said, Tony, we try to be so complicated that we got to give them all this stuff and do all these big things. But really, it's very basic, just saying, "Hey, you know what? I love you unconditionally, and I care about you, and I want to help you succeed." And just even sitting down, and maybe not even saying nothing, just listen to that person's story about the things that they're going through in their life, and let them just pour out their tears and their heartfelt tears to you. And that's, for them, that's healing. That's healing. So we have to allow people to do that, and we can't have this stigma on us that, depending on how successful you are and what you're doing in your life, that you can't show emotion. I show emotion to my kids. I'm open. You know, I'm sad. I got tears flowing. They be like, "Dad, like, what's going on?" And maybe tears of joy, tears of sadness sometimes. But I'm like, it's natural. It's like we have all these different feelings that's that's circulating in our body, and it's almost like you blow up that balloon, and it's like that balloon can only take so air, and as you're blowing it up, a lot of negativity. There's a lot of toxicity, whatnot. If you keep going and going, it's going to burst. And when it bursts, you don't know what's going to happen. It may be somebody becomes homicidal, suicidal, they go on a gambling binge or whatever it may be. But when you're able to talk to them and just be open and honest with them and just let them just vent, it's like you start to all that negativity, all those toxic feelings. It starts to gradually just seep out until it's no more, until it's gone, and then they feel good about themselves. Their soul feels good. That's what it's about.
You hit on that. I think every doctor, every psychologist, therapist out there says that if you keep it inside and hold it within, eventually the cork can pop, and it could be negative, it could be positive, whatever, but something's going to happen. And the worst part about it, Tyree, you hit about it. It's the health side of it. When you do keep it inside and you don't sit there and let your emotions out, be it, you know, happiness, you know, hate, whatever it may be, or you're killing yourself within. Because it's just basically eating away slowly but surely your inner soul. Because I've always said, a lot harder, more time to be mad and hate someone than it is to laugh and to love someone.
Well, you think, I mean, you're 1,000% right on that, Tony. life is already difficult, right? And so we talked about this the other day, right? It's already tough. It's like two things. You want to make it easier, or you want to make it harder. It's just two things. There's no middle ground. And so we want to make it easier, and we want to be able to, with all those toxic feelings, negative, if you're around negative people, you got to start getting rid of that stuff so you can start living a healthier and a happier life. Because if not, it's just, you can be quicker to get to the grave. And that's what we don't want.
All right, Ty, let me ask you this, and then we'll go around the table here. You obviously came through the ups and downs. You made it, and you lost me. The surrounding circle of people that you had around you. Sometimes you get blinded by the success. You get blinded by the people that, like you said, the yes, 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 yes people. When really all they want, they hate. What's in it for me? What advice do you have people that are listening to now to surround themselves with the positive and the right people?
First of all, stay humble. I don't care what you've done in your life. Just be humble. Always be humble and treat people how you want to be treated. A lot of times people, when they see something bad happening, it's quick to turn the channel. They're like, well, it's not directly affecting me because, I live in a great environment. I live in a great area. We don't see any of that stuff. I'm in the suburbs or whatever it may be. But it could happen to you. I mean, you think about it. What happened to COVID? It just people thought that it wasn't going to affect their area. It affected the world. It plagued the entire world. So to me, I look at God as like, hey, you know what? You can't play me. I'm gonna sit everybody down. I'm gonna show everybody who's boss, and that's what happened. So he did. And so it's having that humility, and that's just being able to, just like I said, it goes back to just having that gratitude. Just really appreciate everything that you have in your life, because it's life flies by so fast and so so that's, to me, that's what I think, is just having that gratitude.
Tyree, and that's a great point. Blake, let me ask you this: how do you keep your kids humble? I mean, obviously, we all as fathers and parents and mothers, we all want to give our kids better than we had. Whatever it may be, and obviously, with technology and all that. But how do you keep your kids ground level? I mean, obviously, you brought them to the areas where you saw people that are homeless. Is that something? Because I thought about, bringing the kids to a food shelter, having them understand that we're not all carrying iPhone 11s and have a nice laptop or drive a nice car or whatever it may be. What's your take on that, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to expose them to those things, but in order to sort of establish a long-term humility or gratitude, again, it takes what am I doing to show them that? How am I exemplifying that in my own personal life? And I think what Joe and Tyree said was really, really important. Kids are starving for truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Society and the world, if you want to call it, they are lying to our children. But if we are truthful with them and honest with them, they know what it is. And if we are not truthful with our children, they will not respect us, and they shouldn't, frankly. And so when you are truthful with them, even to the point like Joe and Tyree talked about being vulnerable yourself and admitting you've had a bad day, admitting that you're having some anxiety as well. And this took me a while to learn, frankly, because I always felt like I always had to be some sort of, I'm a single father. I have my kids full time, literally all the time. I kind of, I've got to be both roles, and I've got to do this, and I've got to be strong all the time. But that's not really what they're looking for. They're looking for truth, honesty, and then also just to exemplify how you want them to be. So if I'm cocky and arrogant and I walk around and I mistreat people, then what do you think they're going to do? They're going to see that. And so I think it's truth. And then at the end of the day, frankly, it's kindness. And I know that sounds like super cliche and kind of corny, but kindness is, people are starving for it. And in my profession, I'm a litigator. I mean, I do hardcore employment law litigation, and it's awful. There is no kindness in that world. It's brutal, adversarial, confrontational. There's posturing, lying, getting over on one another. And it's a broken system where people are starving for some kind of just simple kindness. And so if you show that with your kids and you treat them that way and you're brutally honest with them, then they're gonna have a different perspective on life and not just walk around like their crap doesn't stink. because
that's true.
And so if you exemplify that behavior, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get that haughty, arrogant type of attitude and then I always say jerky little kids grow up to be jerky adults.
Hey, you know a lot of those. But hey, Tony, I'm going to tell you this too. I'm going to tell you this too, just to piggyback off of Blake, is that when I won my first world championship medal, right, 1997, my coach told me to put it in a box. He said, I don't want to see it, because he wanted to make sure I maintained that humility, that humbleness, because he didn't want me to get cocky about like, well, I was to a new year that I'm the second fastest man in the world. He wanted me to act as if I was nobody, that I haven't done anything, and I was trying to work my way to the top. And so that's why with me, it's like I always tell my kids stories. Obviously, I have my book, and they're like, and sometimes they're like, okay, Daddy, they're like, man, you have a story for everything, and I'm like, not everything. I got a lot of stories, but I'm real with them. I'm like, I mean, it's like we talk about my girls, we talk about everything, and because I want them to understand that Daddy is a human being, and that all the stuff that I've done, it's nice, but if I'm not being organic, I'm not being real, it means nothing, because I want to be able to elevate other people, and I want them to do the same. That's why I tell them, like, you got to figure out your passion and your purpose in life, and once you do that, it's like you use it for God. It's like everything else is just going to fall into place. So it's that's what's important. I mean, all the stuff, I'm not taking nothing with me. Blake is not taking nothing. You're not taking nothing. You're not taking anything with you, Tony. Neither is Joe. I mean, Denzel Washington said it best. He said there will never be a U-Haul behind a hearse. No, it's not gonna happen.
He's right.
So we have to keep on pushing, and just like Blake was talking about, being empathetic and just loving people and caring for them, and not just trying to overthink things. At times, I know I have a very analytical mind, and I try to break up things. So
let me ask this to all three of you guys. I mean, I always try to tell my kids that you have to be a leader rather than a follower. And when I say be a leader, is that you look at things, they know the difference between right and wrong, and if they don't, you try to teach them. But if they see something on the phone that someone's doing something, they want to do that, and I try to tell my daughter, no, you're following. You don't need to wear short shorts. You don't need yourself. Be you. Be the person that you are. Is that the advice that you three, as parents, would sit there and tell parents that are struggling right now with their kids, especially with the pandemic, that you would give them?
Well, you think about it, is that we all follow somebody, right? That's it. I mean, but it's a matter of who you follow. It's like if they're doing negative things or doing positive things. So I tell my kids, like, yeah, I follow people, but they're doing positive things. They want to be successful. They want to give to other people. So it's like that. But if you do the opposite of that, you're gonna end up in a place where you don't want to be. So that's what I share with my kids, because it goes back to like, nobody pops out of their mother's womb and they become successful. It's like we have people that come into our lives that help us to become successful. It's not about I or me, it's about we and us. But it's, and there's another saying they talk about, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, you can have a group of people that are negative raising your child. So you have to be careful. You have to be very, very careful who's around your child and who you're around. So you have to literally go through a vetting process. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a huge believer in the top 5 people that you hang around is who you become. And you got to make sure your kids too. And I'm a big believer pre-COVID, because my kids can't have friends here, knowing who my kids' friends are, having those kids here. Lots of parents are like, no, go somewhere else. And I'm like, absolutely. That's the last thing I want. I want those kids here. I want to see who is influencing my children, because our friends and their friends are huge influences on their lives. And then I also think, I read something back when my kids were little, and it was about how if we're not listening to them over the tiny things that they want to tell us, as teenagers, when those huge issues come, they're not going to come to us, because we didn't listen about the fish and what it did in the fish tank, or the tiny thing that we took for granted, but it was huge to them, because at that age, it's huge.
Wow. Well, what you just said there, Joe, that resonates, because there's a lot of times, and I think we all go through, it's like, hey, we're so busy that those little things, you're right, because as they get older, they tend not to want to tell you, or they're trying to maybe give you a little fib because they don't think you might get in trouble. But
True.
You just said it. Great advice. Great advice.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, Joe nailed it on the head in terms of I always want to know who my kids are hanging out with. I tell people all the time, okay, who are they hanging out with? And if there's a shift in who they're hanging out with, I want to know why. Why aren't you hanging out with this person anymore? You're hanging out with that person. That's really, really important. And then the other thing is actually I just I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. But
it happens to me all the time, Blake.
Yeah. But yeah, who are your kids hanging out with?
It's COVID, man.
It's COVID. Yeah. That's the only good part about COVID is we get to blame everything on COVID. But yeah, figure out who they're hanging out with, and boy, it was really profound though. It was going to be great. What I had to say.
I'm sure a little part of it.
Yeah, if it comes back,
Blake, you got to just roll with it. You got to just roll with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, think of, I was gonna say this. It's literally about the vetting process, right? I mean, we live in a technical world and where you can vet people, and it would just out because I do student athletes, right? And I tell them that we're recruiters. And Blake, this as a coach, I mean, is that the first place that recruiters go to is social media. So I'm like, you can tell me all day long, no sir, yes sir, but then behind closed doors, you're on social media and you're just talking crazy stuff. That's your character. That's who you are. So it's you have to be very mindful of what you say and what you do, but also just about being just real. And so with my kids, I mean, I'm vetting them and I'm watching them. I'm not expecting them to be perfect because they're not going to be perfect because I'm not perfect. But it's all a matter of like I say, making the right decisions, the positive decisions, and not going the other way. Because if you're around the wrong people, and if you're continuing to do it, you don't want to change, then that's just what you're about.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I remember what I was going to say now. I always tell people too that Jesus said you can't serve two masters, and because if you try to serve them both, you're going to be really bad or you're going to be crappy at both of them. So our kids need us. They need our attention. They need our engagement. They need us to be reliable, consistent, and they need us to be there for them. And so whatever we make our priority, that's our master. And so if we make our kids the priority and we really engage with them, then they're going to come out okay. Yeah, they're going to screw up, and yeah, they're going to make mistakes, and yeah, they're going to have some issues and some traumas and all those things in life. That's unavoidable. We don't get through, and none of us get through that without it. But they'll have the tools and the necessary and the resources in us to be able to deal with it, like Joe said. When we deal with them with their dead goldfish floating in the tank, they're going to come to us with big things like, sexual issues and assaults, and we've all heard stories, or dealing with friend drama and all those sorts of things. They're going to come to us if we are engaged with them, and it takes a concerted effort on our part to do that, for us to give them our full 100% attention, for us to get off the screen, and for us to not be working all the time and all those things. And my boss isn't going to like this if he's watching this, but that's the way it works.
And then my daughter's over the other side of the computer screen going, AKA you.
Hey, speaking of computer screen, we got our good friend Dante that came in. Dante, what's happening, brother?
What's up,
I think he's on mute. Hold on, let me unmute him. Hold on, let me get him going there. Dante coming in late. He always makes me. There he is.
That's good.
Dante, how are you, brother?
What's going on?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope everybody's
Happy New Year, man. Dante, you joining the conversation about the end of the year 2020, how to make 2021 better for not only our kids but ourselves, and the give a little bit of happiness and hope to people. So what's your take? I know you've been listening to it. What's your take on it? What's your word to the people that are listening?
Man, we need to start beating the shit out these kids. What y'all talking about? They got man. You want to slap them in the face. Oh, yeah. And obey. You know what I'm talking about? Let's have some discipline and shit.
The old school, right?
Man,
You know. I don't know about Joe, but
come on, Tyree. You know that Bill.
I was raised
Hey,
old
I know
school.
about I know about that.
You know
Tyree,
about
you were raised old school. Blake, I don't know if
Hey,
you were raised old school or not.
hey,
Oh,
I
Me.
tell you
let
what,
me tell you
you
something.
guys,
We had a stick with the Bible verse, "Foolishness is bound in the heart of the child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him,"
hey,
written on it. And it was, go get the stick. And my dad said, I bought this off a guy in prison when my dad was doing prison ministry. And he used to claim that the guy told him, if my dad had used this on me, I wouldn't be in prison right now. So yeah, you could say I come from the old school.
hey,
That's a great motivator right there. That's a great motivator.
Oh yeah, that's some of the best motivation you ever have. And then by the time I turned 18, it was worn off. It was worn off a bit.
Oh, you know what? Well, you know what? I'm a believer, though. You know, you obviously in this day and age, we do things differently. But you know, our parents were raised in a different way. I mean, they were raised at the iron fist. You know, was probably the best way of doing it. But in this day and age, we have to sit there and use a little bit more of common sense. If we teach our kids the right way, and we continue to love them and make sure that they understand that that things will get better. I think they understand that. It's when we're negative and bringing every negative things around us. You guys said earlier, you surround yourself with negative things and they constantly hear it. The kids see the same thing that we do.
Well, you think about it. I mean, Tony, I do a lot of speaking all over, and it is before this whole COVID hit, and I was speaking at a Baptist church in LA, and this was like last year, and I remember when I walked up, like I had my suit on and everything, and instantly it's like, and it was in a tough area in LA. Instantly they judged me. They're like, this guy never had a hard day in his life. But once I start talking about my experiences, my trials, my tribulations, all that I've gone through, and I start speaking their language, they have this utmost respect for me because it's like they understood where I came from and I understood where they came from. And I think it's about when you set that example, it's like I know with my kids and then many other kids that are they come from humble beginnings, or going through a difficult time, and they see me and they're like, man, this is like Tyree Washington. He's gone through so much in his life. Where we're at right now, he was there many years ago, but he persevered. That gives them the inspiration, the motivation. It gives them the hope to keep pushing forward. And that's what it's about. I mean, that's why I wrote my book, Against All Odds, and I put it out there, and I'm working on this movie because it's not about like, well, I have this, I got my autobiography out and I'm going to drop this movie and it's like like this is what I've done, but I want to spread more positivity out there in the world. And just like I said earlier, with my message is that I want to be that meteor that hits the ocean and cause all those tsunamis of positivity, and that's my way of doing it. And so when our kids see us or anybody sees us, and that we're doing what's right, Blake's doing his thing, Joe's doing a thing, Dante, Tony, and it's like we're out there sharing our story, because everybody has a story. Is that you never know what somebody's going through in their life, and that story may lift them up. That's gonna breathe life into them. So we can't hold back, because a closed mouth never gets fed. And you, like I said, you never know. You never know whose life you're gonna change by you just opening up and you just humbling yourself and just giving them the honest truth about your life. You never know.
All right, so let me ask you this, and just to go around the wheel here. When you get to a point, Tyree, where you try to help, and a body, a soul can only do so much, and then obviously you get weak sometimes.
Right.
What's your moment, or what do you do to sit there and rejuvenate yourself? And I'm not talking about working out. I'm not talking about taking vitamins. I know in the Lord and the Bible and believing in something, but what's your way of telling yourself that things are going to be better?
Well, it's like, I reach out to those lifelines, like I talked about earlier. Reach out to my pops, reach out to my coaches, my mentors, whatnot. But also too, I'm very good looking at past events, about things that happen, and that lifts me up. I mean, everybody has their go-to, and I may say this over and over again, but I go to the Bible, man. I've read Job many times over and over again, and I look at also too. I mean that I grew up, like I said, in a hostile environment, gangs, drugs, prostitution, all of that stuff, man. But there's gangbangers out there that lived a horrific life, crazy life. They turned their life around, and they're great entrepreneurs. They went and got their degree. They have PhDs and then phenomenal things. Those are people those are the people I look at, and I'm just like, man, Ty, they turned their life around, and if they can do it, why can't you do it? And so that's why I do. I'm always, like I said, my mind's always spinning, my thoughts are always spinning, and I'm always just trying to work on getting better. That's one thing about social media, and I think with our kids too, is that our kids, when they're looking at social media, they see people out there, these Instagram models and stuff. And I'm not knocking what you do, but it's almost like they're talking about it's like they have this perception that they're perfect, that everything is right, and they're saying the right things, but nothing is perfect, and nobody always says the right things. There's layers to everything, and I tell my kids all the time. I said that's not reality. I said you never know that person's going through things in their life. They may not share in it. They may share to buy a house, the car, but they're probably barely have money to put gas in that Bentley that they have, or that Maserati, or whatever it may be. So it's not about it's all about, like I said, being organic, being authentic, is just being yourself, because it never goes wrong, and just loving who you are. I tell my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, she looks like she's 20 something, and she has an adult body, and I'm like, listen, just and she's looking at all these other models out there, and sometimes she's like, well, Dad, I don't. It's like, look at this, she's so beautiful. She has beautiful lips in her hair. And I tell her, listen, you have beautiful lips. You have beautiful hair, eyes. I mean, you're 5'7" frame. I say, you're gorgeous. I mean, what God made is beautiful. And I tell people all the time about myself, it's like, I'm brown sugar. Like I said, I love my brown sugar. You know what I mean? I love everything about myself. And I mean, I just recently found out that I've always been, I don't know if a lot of you probably even know this, but I've been looking for my father for like over 30 something years. And I found out that I have family in Boston. I found that I'm part Nigerian. And so, and I never knew that. And for me, it's like, I'm embracing my culture and embracing my race and everything about it. Just about being Nigerian. And so I think just love who you are. You can never please everybody. If you go on YouTube, right? YouTube has thumbs up and thumbs down. So you may have an artist that has like 10 million thumbs up. Well, they got some thumbs down. You can't please everybody. Not everybody's going to like you. They're not going to like the way you talk, the way you dress. They're not like your hair. They're not going to like your job. But do what makes you happy at the end of the day. Because not everybody's going to see the things that you want to see. They're not going to, or visualize the things that you see, or they're not going to do the things that you like. But you do what makes you happy at the end of the day, and that's all that matters.
Dante, what do you I know we talked about this too before with the kids and trying to sit there and keep motivated and positive at what everything's going on in the world. What's your year-end message to the people for 2021 that we're going to get through this and come on the other side?
Well, all jokes aside, man, our youth is really important, especially what we feed them, and what they understand, and what we understand. I think that, and we, talk about races a lot. I think, and Tyree can probably testify to this. I think within our race, Black race, is really a detachment from the elders, from the young kids. It's like, especially when you talk about church folks, they'll be too holy, or they'll be too saved, or, to talk to some of the kids that are in the streets or don't have that identification. And I think the identification is really important, because when you do have that experience and you do have that identification, then you can really empathize and you can be compassionate about a kid's situation, wherever they're coming from. And, I think what Tyree talks about, our resumes, that's what makes really us valuable. Him, me being in Long Beach, coming from the area of Long Beach. And then, myself with the resume of, coming through Major League Baseball, then, being in the streets and homeless and the whole 9 yards, having addiction or the whole everything, If I sit down and talk to a kid and they say, hey, man, I've had some problems with, alcohol or, whatever addiction it is, I can identify with that. If they ever talk about, man, I was tripping because, I was getting locked up or I heard those bars, slam behind me, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to sleep on a cot. I know what it feels like to be in certain situations, man. And that testimony and that identification with kids is powerful. And that's what I use. And I think that's what we need to use as mentors, as parents, as leaders for these kids. And you're absolutely right. We do need to listen because the way they're growing up is really different from the way that we've grown up. There was an iron fist, and I think there has to be a combination of the two. And there is a balance. You have to be able to not spare the rod on the child so you don't spoil it. That's in the Bible as well. But then you also have to have some understanding. You have to have wisdom in your approach and how we teach kids and how they learn from us, especially in 2021. So there's a lot of valuable learning lessons, especially coming from us. I think as a community of adults, we can learn off each other as well. When we start having stability, I think the kids start having more stability. So everything starts with us, and everything will end with the kids. So whatever we do, whatever we put into them, that's what they'll learn, and they'll do the same thing.
I agree. I agree 100% on that. Lost Tyree's visual, but he might be coming back on with the audio side of it. Joe, we got probably about 20 more minutes here, and then we'll wrap it up for the new year so everybody can sit there and be with their family and friends. COVID's been brutal.
It has.
Not only for the younger generation, the older generation, the grandparents, across the board. What's one tidbit that you would sit there and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get there.
There we go.
It's a hard one. It really is. We got to look at the positive. We've got to look at the great things that happened in this year. If it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't be sitting here with all of you guys tonight. The connections I've made this year have been absolutely phenomenal because my life slowed down and I was able to point it in the direction I wanted. So for my kids for next year, I've talked to them about, let's set goals. If we're locked down till next September, let's set goals. Where do we want our lives to be? What can we do within our home to make that possible? Yes, maybe sports aren't going. Yes, maybe schools aren't going, but let's get those home workouts going. So when you do go back to sports, you're jumping back in, not 9 months behind. Different things like that, different goals, different ways we can look at the positives within the situation and try to move forward with positivity instead of looking at all the negatives. Because if we start adding up the negative, we're going to live in that. And Tyree, just like you were saying, 90% of the time, if we're looking at those negatives, we can all find them. It's not going to help us. Mentally, it's not going to help us. We focus on those positives, focus on what we can do and what we can change and how we can pick up the phone and call someone. And we have that ability. So we need to be thankful for the stuff that we do have.
Blake?
I'm going to sort of reiterate what I said earlier in terms of dealing with a pandemic or dealing with something even that's more personal or whatever. There's always some opportunity there. And so if you look at it as an opportunity to do something as opposed to a negative sit around and complain, then your whole mindset's going to change because you're actually going to be everywhere you go, whether it be the grocery store or you're standing in line at the outlet mall to get into the Nike outlet store with your mask on. You're like, this sucks. I can't, I don't like the way life is right now. But if you see it as some sort of opportunity, even to converse with somebody in line, I mean, you'd be shocked at what you can do just by showing some simple kindness, some accommodation, a smile even from your mask. You can still see people smiling with your eyes, by the way. So so I guess the point is that there's just opportunities everywhere. And if you look at it from that standpoint, you really then don't focus on the negative. It's like COVID doesn't even exist anymore. It's okay, but there's opportunities as a result of COVID. That's kind of the way I look at it. And so that's kind of my message, because frankly, tomorrow's going to be the first, and we're making a big deal of that. Oh, it's 2021 and 2020 sucks so bad. Well, I'm going to look back on 2020 as this was when 11 Meals mission started, and who knows how far this thing's going to go. And it's not just going to suddenly change in tomorrow. COVID's still here. There's still these lockdowns, and there's still these rules and all these regulations and inconsistent enforcement of them. And I mean, and that all leads to frustration if we allow it, and it does. And we all feel it. But if you look at it as an opportunity, I'm telling you, your mindset will change, and then you'll actually figure out how to do something. And I tell my kids to dream small. I don't tell them to dream big. Just because when you dream big, you tend to get overwhelmed in it, and you're like, I can't do that, because dream big, you look all the way down the road to something, but without taking all those steps. So let's dream small. Let's do one little step at a time. Look for those opportunities, and then you start focusing on that as opposed to the negative that's resulting from the pandemic, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Dante.
Yeah, man. I'm a little bit on the opposite, kind of on the dreaming side, and just to piggyback off what Blake was talking about. And I know perfectly what he's saying. Sometimes we can get overwhelmed in the moment. Things can be surmountable and insurmountable, and it's just like, wow, how can I get through this? I think that's where faith comes in. Especially for me. Faith that has given me courage to dream big, because I know when I exhaust myself to a point, then I do have a creator that's going to provide even more. And I think that's where the faith comes in, when you've exhausted every point that and then a door just opens up, for your dream. And then it's like, wow, that's my creator working again, So that's why I typically tell kids to continually dream big. And that's really the journey behind it. So, with that, it takes a lot of courage, as well. But with sports being down, kind of the morale of with the COVID-19, kids not being in school, us as adults, we got to be creative. We have to find some creative ways to, get their morale up, get them out to the parks, even if it's just playing dominoes at the house or Uno game or, you don't
know how creative I got, man.
Right. Whatever it is to get their minds thinking. And us men, we play hide and go seek with their daughters, 7 years old, we're hiding in the closet, grown men, that's the stuff we got to do. You know what I'm saying? We got to do that. And, I wish as leaders we can be out there, providing more, but we have to do it with what we have, within our families. And that's where we start. So hopefully that being a starting point will manifest into something bigger, and what it does too, it gets us prepared. So now we're in the position where we're not just going out there rusty. We've been preparing our families, we've been preparing ourselves, our businesses. So when the door is open, we can really bust out running.
Tyree, let me ask you this, Tyree. Obviously, when bad things happen, I always look at that. There's a bad, there's a good, there's an evil, there's up a yin and a yang, whatever you want to call it, a yes and a no. So when bad things do happen, it kind of sets us up. If you have the mentality, it sets us up to do good things that open up. Just like with Blake's situation, with Dante's situation, Joe. I wouldn't have had this opportunity to meet you, Dante, Blake, Joe, and probably 20 other people that I truly call family and friends, and go-to people, like you were talking about, that we have the same mentality and the same look in life. Telling our kids that to dream, which I tell my kids, dreaming big, but the failure part, it's okay to fail. It's okay to sit there and have an obstacle. How do you sit there and relate that to the kids and to not only the kids, to adults?
Well,
Because a lot of times, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I'll just say this because I know I got to wind it down. Heavy.
Yeah.
Is that it's very important that we just continue to be transparent with our kids, and we have to let them just be real, be organic, and just let them know that yes, I failed, you're gonna fail. It's a part of life. But within every failure, with every bad situation, there's a learning lesson within it that's gonna help you to get better. And that's why I continually tell my kids, and I tell myself, and I tell my clients, anybody that I'm advising, that yeah, you're going through a difficult situation right now, but there's something that you're going to be able to take away from it that's going to help you to get better in life. That's the focus. And a lot of times when they focus on that, it's like they feel a lot better, because one thing about 2020 is that it exposed a lot of people's weaknesses. But that's a great thing, because when you can expose your weakness, and like I was talking about earlier, and you can turn that to a strength, you're going to get better. And it's not about like perfection. And that's the goal. And that's what I want people to take away from, is that treat people how you want to be treated, and kiss your kids, love them, hug them. And anybody out there, don't make assumptions about other people, about what's going on in their life, whatever it may be. If you like, I was telling Tony the other day, Rashawn Salam was my host when I was going to the University of Colorado many years ago. And the day before he killed himself, I was telling my wife, I need to call Rashawn. Next day I looked, it was on ESPN, he took his life. So, I mean, we have this discernment, we have this intuition, and this burning desire. Sometimes you're feeling something for somebody, reach out to them. But even if you don't feel it, it's like you just haven't talked to them in a while, just still text them, email, or call them, Zoom, or whatever it may be, because that's what's important. And we're just like with Blake. Blake is out there helping these homeless people to have a meal, have a hot meal, have something to eat. And that's amazing to me. That's priceless. And it's all about giving back. It's like each one teach one. Because at the end of the day, we can't take anything with us, and we have to continue to spread more love in the world. We only have one life, we have one world, and if we don't take care of it, I mean, we're just going to perish even faster. And I know that's what we don't want. And so, just love people, man. Keep an open mind about everybody and everything, and just let's enjoy 2021. I mean, I think about this year coming up of Kobe Bryant's anniversary. And Kobe had no idea that he went to Mass, hopped on the plane, that was going to be the last time that he was ever going to see Vanessa, see his kids. And so we just don't know that. So we have to focus on today and just pour a tremendous amount of love with our family, our friends, and just people that we don't know, just listen to them. So that's what I want everybody to take away from. I'm going to say this, Tony, too. Remember to purchase my book, Against All Odds, on Amazon. You can also go to my website at www.tyreeswashington to purchase my book. And if you need a speaker going into 2021, because we're about to be in 2021 in a matter of hours, reach out to me. I talk a lot about overcoming adversity, talk about leadership. And like I said, with everybody, we all have a story, and we all are dealing with issues, but everybody they want to have a solution for their issues. They want to try to overcome. So I'm that man, and that's what I want to do. That's my calling. But it's been a blessing, everybody. Dante, Blake, Joe,
it's been great. I can't wait till 2021. We got a couple minutes left. Joe, tell us last word, and then we'll go to Blake, Dante, and Tyree. Close us out, and you guys know me. Love, live, laugh. That's what we need to do more of, and I think the world will be a better place. Joe, go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to thank the four of you. There's nothing else I wanted to do tonight other than talk to you guys. So thank you so much. I hope everyone has a wonderful 2021. Everyone just stay positive. Let's go into 21 thinking positively and just changing our mindset. So have a good one, you guys.
Thanks, Joe. Blake.
Right.
Yeah, thanks again. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's the 11 Meals Mission. I think you'll post it's my name at gmail.com if you want to get involved in it. Mother Teresa said, if you can't feed 100 people, feed just one. well, we started feeding just one, but now we're feeding 100. So we really need your help, and appreciate any volunteer time, donations, etc. And shoot me an email or shoot me a text, give me a call, and become involved. And Tony, this is huge for you to allow me this opportunity. And Tyree, it was awesome to talk to another IE guy.
Yes, yes.
I've followed you for a long time, so it's a pleasure to like meet you in person here, even though it's virtually. I sent you a Facebook request, so make sure you accept it. And Dante, I remember watching you playing baseball. One of my best friends is David Segui. I don't know if you ever played with him or against him, but you're right around that era. So it was really cool meeting you too. So just thanks again. I appreciate it.
Hey, Blake, send me a Facebook request, will you?
I will. I'll do that.
All right. Good deal.
Dante, last word, bud, and then we'll go to Tyree to close out.
Oh, man, just sorry for being tardy, number one.
It's all right.
It's all good. It's all good.
Like you said, you guys, it's been a blessing of a year. Even under the conditions with the coronavirus, just my immediate family, everybody's been okay. Just going into 2021, we didn't overextend ourselves, with our business before, and the timing was probably perfect. Didn't have to lay off people and do all the things that I've heard some nightmares of other businesses. Staying online has been really good for us right now. So, just for the future, I just ask you guys just to, keep your faith, keep your faith. Faith is of a mustard seed. That's all it requires. And it's his job to make that grow. Speaking of God. So just have faith of a mustard seed. That's what I did. I mean, shit, I walked out of heaven. You know how it is, Tyree. That's walking out of heaven, man.
Yes, I know.
we being raised in the church, being in the streets, and doing some things, and coming back to it. It's like, man, how do you forgive me for it?
Yep.
You do everything, all things. You feel me?
Yep.
And testimony to that, and I want to be here for the kids. 2021 BBYCB mentoring program. Be the best you can be. Is on deck. We're going to be ready to go. So really excited. You guys will all be a part of that. So thank you.
Hey,
thank you, Doug. Tyree, close out, buddy.
I'm just gonna close, you guys. I'm gonna close it out with a quote, and it's a quote my pops gave me. Is that destiny can be delayed but not denied, and we all have a destiny. But throughout our life, throughout our journey, we're gonna encounter many different challenges, trials, and tribulations. They're gonna try to slow us up, but it's gonna never stop us from getting to our destiny and reaching that final place. So, peace, love, and happiness. And I love you guys, and I'm truly ecstatic that I was able to share my message with you all. Thank you so much for Tony, Joe, Blake, Dante, man. You guys are all angels. Love you guys, and let's catapult in 2021, and let's just rock it. Let's rock it.
We're gonna do it, guys. Hey, you know what? I couldn't ask for a better New Year's Eve night, man. You know what? Dante, Tyree, Joe, Blake, we'll be in touch. All four of us will be in touch again. Obviously, 2021 is going to be a great year. Tyree, much love to you and the family. We'll be in touch. Yes. Dante, Joe, have a wonderful night. Blake, be safe, guys. And remember, pick up the phone, say hi to someone. You never know what they're going through, guys. We love you.
Yes.
Have a great night.
Love you.
God bless you guys. God bless you. Peace.
Bye.